Hi everyone, Helen Blunden here. Hope you're happy, healthy and well. Thought I'd do a new video today where I just would do a vlog and answer some questions that I've written down here in this book that are all related to this YouTube channel, but also mainly books and the love of reading. These are the questions that you might have of me, but what I would also recommend is please respond and also share your own comments, your recommendations in the comments below, and I will answer them. It's always interesting to learn from you, to learn what books you're reading, and to also see and understand how you read your books, what kind of books you read, that also enable me to go and find those same books and share that same journey. So thank you for joining me today. Go grab a cup of coffee or a glass of wine if you're so inclined. I'm not going to say anything over with a glass of wine, but for me it's kind of like it's before 12, so I can't go grab my wine. And besides, I'm going to go to my French class afterwards, and I'm sitting here waiting for my COVID test to see if I'm negative or positive. Hey, look, I'm negative. That means I could go to French later on, which is fantastic. I always love going there. So let's start with some of the questions. Number one, why did I start this channel? Now, if you go through this YouTube channel, you'll find one of the videos which is my introductory video that explains this. At the time that I created that video, that was about 3 years ago. That was the same time I left work. At the time, I thought I was just going to take a sabbatical, just a year off, to try and figure out what it is that I want to do with my life going. But now, 3 years down the track, I haven't returned to work. At the time, I was a learning and development person. I was working corporates in the learning and development function. I loved everything to do with learning and development, but I found that my expertise, which was all around community learning, social and virtual learning, using online tools for building learning communities, was not really appreciated in the corporate world. In fact, I see it now that is a complete disconnect. I see the value of what I was doing now post work, where people are moving from, I guess, one corporate world job to maybe starting their own business, or people going into retirement, trying to figure out what it is they want to do next, maybe figuring out how they build a new skill or work on a hobby. They are the people who appreciate the type of things that I used to espouse. So at the time, what I did to this channel was I made private over 400 different videos that I had about how I learned my own processes. I stopped all those and instead focused on reading, which was a hobby of mine, a true passion, and something that I've been doing ever since I was a child. But I didn't know how this YouTube channel was going to work out for me. I didn't know what the goal was, except for sharing some life lessons from the books that I was reading. And I deliberately did them as one video per book. I know there are many YouTubers out there who do reviews of books, of multiple books at the one time. I wanted to actually go deeper into one book, and usually books that aren't, I guess, popular or read a lot by the masses. In effect, this was purely a channel for me to sense make, to talk about deeper lessons that I learned from books and share those, hopefully with a view of others sharing their lessons with me as well. At the same time though, when I left work, I also deleted all my social media accounts, and this was a very big thing for me because I use social media and I needed social media to build these online communities that I was espousing, of building online networks, of building online communities for people to show and share their work, to learn from others. So in effect, what I was doing was I basically closed out my entire career, and it forced me to have a major rethink as to how I was going to build that community around something new. I had to build community that didn't use social media, that didn't take me away from doing this, from creating the videos, but more importantly from doing the things I love, which is reading books. And I didn't want to follow the trend that everyone else was doing on the treadmill of mad content creation on social media, being on TikTok, being on YouTube Shorts, being on Instagram, being on TikTok, what is it now? Twitter X or whatever. I didn't want all that. So I deleted everything and only had my YouTube channel and a paid blog that I have had for years, knowing full well that it was going to be very difficult if I wanted to build this channel. But I really wanted to strip it back to the bare essentials, which was to build a community of people who, out of their interest, they come back to this channel. So the reason I started this channel was to make sense of the books that I was reading, but also, I guess the big thing was post-work, what is it that I wanted to do with my life? Knowing that I threw everything out and started afresh, what is it this next phase of life that I'm going into? I guess a life of retirement, maybe a life of post-work. Who am I? What is it that I want to do? What is it that I want to build? Who are the type of people that I want to connect with? Who are the type of readers and the communities that I want to engage in? What are the kind of books that I want to read? All these very big questions, with a hope that somehow, somewhere, it will provide me with a new journey into this next phase of my life. And that was the reason why I started this channel, with absolutely no preconceptions of building it as an enterprise or some kind of business, because knowing full well that if you build it as a business, that in itself creates more headaches. So that's the reason why I don't use algorithms, and I use these videos purely as a means of expression. So you're not going to get algorithms, you're not going to get sale jobs on them. My videos aren't optimized. I don't use I know there's some people out there who write comments in some of my videos saying you don't use SEO. Yeah, I don't know what that is. Anyway, so what I do is I just create the video and put it up there and try and fill in the description boxes as best I can, and whatever views I get, that's what I get. I don't even know how many subscribers I have. That's just how much of an interest I have. Right. Let's go into the second question, because I dribbled on there. What kind of books do I read? Now, the main books that I prefer to read are classics and literature, although you'll see behind me, they're not it. You could tell from the spines there. Those books are mainly my husband's, and he prefers to read popular novels of popular authors like, you know, the Tom Clancy's and Stephen King's and so forth. That's not to say that I don't like to read them. I have read those books. It's just that I prefer to read literature. I prefer to read books from authors who make me think, who make me ask questions, who make me go deeper into the book and go on some kind of journey or some kind of experience. I want to actually go down rabbit warrens. I want to, when I read a book, I want to think, oh crap, you know, what is this about? And then actually then use that same theme to explore deeper and go into YouTube and watch videos or watch movies or read further into that particular theme so that I could learn more about it. So in effect, I actually want to read books that make me become a curious natural explorer, go down rabbit warrens. And I used to remember when I was in the corporate world, I'd say this, and they would say to me and say, well, we don't have time for that. We don't have time for that. Now that you have the time, now when you do have the time, it is so wonderful to go down rabbit warrens, to ask questions, to be constantly surprised that a whole world is revealed to you through a book that expresses emotions, expresses some beautiful ways of looking at the world, because you come out of it a changed person. And they're the type of books I prefer to read. But that's not to say that I don't like reading the popular novels. Of course I do. And there are times that I have read literature which has thrown me out so much that it's discombobulated me, that I've lost my reading mojo. And I've even created a video here on this channel when you do find yourself lost in some way. And I don't know why that happens when you read a good book and you go into it so much and then you live it, you live through this book, and then you can't get back into another book because you just want to keep revisiting the themes of the book that you've read. The same writers could write something else that actually throw you, then knock you about, and you think, what did they just write? Why did they write this shit? It makes you stressed and you can't get back into your reading mojo anymore. And that's happened recently with a couple of books from two authors who I thought better. The first one was Peter Carey. He's an Australian author. He's well known. He's won lots of awards. He wrote this book called My Life as a Fake. and it threw me. It made me angry for some reason. The second one was John Fowles. Yes, that John Fowles of The Second Lieutenant's Woman and The Collector and The Magus. He wrote this bizarre book called The Mantissa. And I just threw it up against the wall because it was just shit. Now, after reading those two books, I'm actually quite lost because those two books were very similar to each other. And that's another thing that I like to do. I like to read books and then try and draw links from them. And for some reason, I found The Magus and My Life as a Fake as the one and the same. But I'm not going to do a review on those because I didn't like them, and they had such a visceral reaction in me to the point where I couldn't read anything else, and I thought I need something to get me out of this state. When I do find those states, I do find it important that I'll go back to a popular novel, something that is just a story with a plot that is easy to read, that is mindless, that I could just get into it, cleanse the mind and cleanse the palate. Does that happen to you? Righto, next question. What am I currently reading? Okay, after The Mantissa and My Life as a Fake, I started reading Oliver Sacks' The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat. There could have been a mistake because this is actually non-fiction. It is heavy going, but I'm reading it very, very slowly, and I'm marking the certain parts of the book that it's actually quite emotional. I'll do a review of this at some later stage, and I'm in the process now of trying to find another book to read because Mantissa and My Life as a Fake really did my head in. All right, next question. How do I source books? Well, easily. First one is I go to the library. We have so many libraries here in Melbourne that I'm so thankful to be a member of 7 closest ones here. And through those libraries, I can source any book that I like. So that's the first thing. The second thing is from your recommendations here in the comments below. Every time you mention a book, I will actually create it and add it to a Goodreads bookshelf list that I have created called Life Lessons from Books, and they are all your recommendations. So when I'm at the library, I throw up the Goodreads app, look through your recommendations and try and find the books that you recommend. The third way is I love going to secondhand bookstores, used bookstores, indie bookshop, even the bookstores, the normal bookstores that we have here in Melbourne. Even though they are very, very expensive, I will buy the books if on sale and if I want them in my own collection. But usually I will try and find books secondhand because I simply don't have the funds to buy books new. The other question, why don't I advertise on social media? Well, good question. I have gotten rid of all my social media accounts, so it makes it difficult. But as I mentioned before, I really want to spend more time on my reading rather than being in creator mode. I don't want to create shorts. I don't want to put stuff on Instagram. I don't want to post stuff on X or Twitter or whatever it's called, because then the machines drive me as opposed to me being in control. I want my time devoted to reading, to reflecting, to writing, to creating, to keeping my mind free, and I find that social media does not allow me to do that. But that's not to say if you have a social media account and you want to share any of my videos, by all means do share them. Next question, how many books do I read per year? I don't know. I use the Goodreads app, you know, that challenge, but I'm not driven by a number per se. I don't set out to say, right, I want to read 70 books. Even though I put down like 70 books in a year, it doesn't really matter whether I reach that target or not. I'm not driven by the numbers I read. I would like to know that I read different books of different genres and also different authors who are mainly non-Anglo-Saxon. I want to read a variety of books, and I think this year has been the best year for reading all sorts of different books. Next question, what's my favorite place to read? My favorite place definitely is bed. My bed, God, I spend a lot of hours in bed just reading. yeah, bed's the main place. Although in the summertime, I like to read out here in the sunroom because I get a lot of light from the windows. In other parts of the house, not so much because it is quite dark. I don't read outside. I'm not much of a reader at cafes and so forth. I do bring a book with me everywhere. I don't travel a lot anymore on public transport, so I don't read there. I would say my main time is in the mornings. I devote at least an hour of reading in the mornings. At bedtime, at least another hour, another 2 hours. On weekends, I read for hours on end. I'm not much of a watcher of television, so I don't know of the latest shows on Netflix and so forth. I prefer to read, so that's the reason why I read so much. And I like to devote my hours to reading. Righto, I think I'll leave it for now. That's it, that's enough. That's just too much. Let me know what you think about any of the questions that I've gone through and the answers below. Watch out for this review soon. All I have to say now is thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I always enjoy your comments. Please share the comments below and see you at the next video. Okay then, bye for now. Bye.